Episode number 177. In fact, the dream of poor Basin had always been to serve at Churchman, and he awaited with impatience the moment, always in the future, when Aramis would throw aside the uniform, and assume the cassock. The daily renewed promise of the young man that the moment would not long be delayed, had alone kept him in the service of a musketeer, a service, in which, he said, his soul was in constant jeopardy. Basin was then at the height of joy. In all probability, this time his master would not retract. The union of physical pain with moral uneasiness had produced the effect so long desired. Aramis, suffering at once in body and mind, had at length fixed his eyes and his thoughts upon religion, and he had considered as a warning from heaven the double accident which had happened to him, that is to say, the sudden disappearance of his mistress and the wound in his shoulder. It may be easily understood that in the present disposition of his master nothing could be more disagreeable to Basin than the arrival of D'Artagnan, which might cast his master back again into that vortex of mundane affairs which had so long carried him away. He resolved, then, to defend the door bravely, and as, betrayed by the mistress of the inn, he could not say that Aramis was absent, he endeavored to prove to the newcomer that it would be the height of indiscretion to disturb his master in his past conference, which had commenced with the morning, and would not, as Basin said, terminate before night. But D'Artagnan took very little heed of the eloquent discourse of M. Basin, and as he had no desire to support a polemic discussion with his friend's valet, he simply moved him out of the way with one hand, and with the other turned the handle of the door of number 5. The door opened, and D'Artagnan went into the chamber. Aramis, in a black gown, his head enveloped in a sort of round flat cap, not much unlike a calotte, was seated before an oblong table, covered with rolls of paper and enormous volumes in folio. At his right hand was placed the superior of the Jesuits, and on his left the curate of Montdidier. The curtains were half drawn, and only admitted the mysterious light calculated for beatific reveries. All the mundane objects that generally strike the eye on entering the room of a young man, particularly when that young man is a musketeer, had disappeared as if by enchantment, and for fear, no doubt, that the sight of them might bring his master back to ideas of this world, Basin had laid his hands upon sword, pistols, plumed hat, and embroideries, and laces of all kinds and sorts. In the stead D'Artagnan thought he perceived in an obscure corner a discipline code suspended from a nail in the wall. At the noise made by D'Artagnan in entering, Aramis lifted up his head, and beheld his friend, but to the great astonishment of the young man, the sight of him did not produce much effect upon the musketeer, so completely was his mind detached from the things of this world. "Good day, dear D'Artagnan," said Aramis. "Believe me, I am glad to see you." "So am I delighted to see you," said D'Artagnan, "although I am not yet sure that it is Aramis I am speaking to." "To himself, my friend, to himself. But what makes you doubt it?" "I was afraid I had made a mistake in the chamber, and that I had found my way into the apartment of some churchman. Then another error seized me on seeing you in company with this gentleman. I was afraid you were dangerously ill.